Welcome to the Get Sellers Calling You podcast for Christian real estate agents, where we help you grow your real estate business with some great marketing tips and grow your faith with some powerful radical faith teaching. I'm Beatty Carmichael, and I'm glad you joined us today. So sit back and watch it and listen and be very blessed. So welcome everyone. Today's guest is Dr. Debi Silber, founder of the Post-Betrayal Transformation Institute and also the National Forgiveness Day. She's a holistic psychologist and award-winning speaker and two-time #1 international best-selling author, best known for her groundbreaking research on betrayal, which is something that's a topic really close to my heart. Her PhD study led to 3 discoveries that completely change how we understand healing after betrayal, making recovery not just possible, but I love it, that is predictable. She's been featured on Fox, CBS, The Dr. Oz Show, and twice on TEDx, and her podcast, From Betrayal to Breakthrough, ranks in the top 1.5% globally. Dr. Debi helps people break free from betrayal and other blocks that keep them from the health, relationships, and confidence that they deserve. So get ready and let's learn how to turn pain into transformation. So Debi, Dr. Debi, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Looking forward to our conversation.
I am too. I would love just a real quick background as to who you are and what brings you here today so people get a chance to know you.
Yeah, I don't think anybody says, I want to study betrayal. No.
I don't think so either.
You study because you have to. I'm in business 33 years, health, mindset, personal development. I had a painful betrayal from my family. I thought I did all I needed to do to heal from that. And then it happened again a few years later. This time it was my husband. That was the deal breaker. Got him out of the house, looked at the 2 experiences thinking, what's similar to these 2? Of course, me, but what else? And I realized I never took my own needs seriously. It was always about everybody else. And I'm one of those people that believes if nothing changes, nothing changes. Excuse me. So usually I go to books or courses or I read something or learn something to help me. And there wasn't anything I could find. So I decided I needed to go back for a PhD and study this at the PhD level. So here I was, 4 kids, 6 dogs, a thriving business, going back for a PhD. And while I was there, I did a study and I studied betrayal. And honestly, I studied it just because I was hoping to be better for my kids, hoping to heal, hoping to be better for my clients. And that study led to 3 groundbreaking discoveries, which changed my health, my family, my work, my life.
Well, I can't wait to hear those groundbreaking discoveries. One of the things I find in my work, I teach at an addiction recovery center, and betrayal is every single person that comes through. And then just the people I meet on the street and through friendship, there's always something where there's a deep root. And once it's betrayed by someone close to you, it's so hard to get rid of it. So that's why I'm so excited about your work and the impact that you're making. Talk to us a little bit about some of the stages that you found going from betrayal to breakthrough.
Well, that's actually the 3rd discovery. So if you want me to start with it, I love to start with the first one because it just ties in so well to what you just said about addiction. The first discovery, I had a feeling that betrayal was a different type of trauma. Yeah. I'd been through death of a loved one. I'd been through disease, but I was like, betrayal feels different. I didn't want to assume it was the same for all my study participants. So I asked them, if you've been through other traumas besides betrayal, does it feel different for you? Unanimously, they said it's so different. And here's why. Because it feels so intentional, we take it so personally. So the entire self gets shattered. Rejection, abandonment, belonging, confidence, worthiness, trust. I mean, think about it. These are deep reasons why someone would move towards a drug or something, right?
Absolutely.
And so, like when you lose someone you love, for example, you grieve, you mourn, life will never be the same, right? But you don't necessarily question the relationship. Right? You don't question your ability to trust. You don't question your sanity. With betrayal, you do. So that betrayal is a different type of trauma that needs a different way to heal. That was the first discovery.
Let me ask you a question. if you were to guess, or maybe you
Mhm.
have more actual statistics, how many people, what percentage of adults do you feel have gone through some sort of deep betrayal?
Yeah. It's hard to say only because it's almost like I'm in a bar and everybody's like, why is everybody drinking?
Yeah, okay, I
So
totally get it.
right. I'm seeing it, but it's so common. It's so common. And it doesn't, when I say betrayal, I'm talking about betrayal of a family member, a partner, a friend, coworker, self, right?
Yes.
And even when I was doing the study, originally I was studying the betrayal of a family member, partner, or friend. I actually had to drop the friend part because while they will infuriate you, you will be so angry, so distraught. They don't break us. We're never broken, bent like the family members or the partners. Those are the ones that get us the most.
That makes a lot of sense. And with divorce on the rise, with abuse on the rise, I can just imagine that betrayal
Mm-hmm.
within the family and the partnership groups is really probably the key, where most of that increase is coming from.
It's huge. It's so huge. And what's so shocking about it is, think about it. This was the person or these were the people who gave us a sense of safety and security.
Yeah.
So when this is the person, these are the people to take that very sense of safety and security away, it's completely traumatizing.
You know, I,
This is the person you trusted the most
yeah,
and they prove untrustworthy.
these are the people at the addiction recovery center, so frequent that betrayal happens early in their life
Oh yeah.
and then with partners. And it's one of those things that I talk on forgiveness, and they go, but I can't forgive them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I can forgive others, but what they did was unforgivable, and that betrayal is just so deep.
Well, and I love that you're teaching them forgiveness. We found and the research found forgiveness has a huge place, but if we bring it up too early and before a certain stage of healing, and we'll get to that, that's the third discovery, it
Okay,
backfires every time. Because
interesting.
of course it's not because it's in our best interest, but they're not ready.
So, what's the second stage? What's the second discovery?
Yeah. So the second one was that there's actually this collection of symptoms, physical, mental, and emotional, so common to betrayal. It's known as post betrayal syndrome. So we've had over 100,000 people take our post betrayal syndrome quiz on our site to see to what extent they're struggling. And a few things about that. The first one is we've all heard time heals all wounds. I have the proof that when it comes to betrayal, that's not true. You can't, a new relationship won't heal it, time won't heal it, healing will heal it. And I'm happy to share some of the stats if that would help.
I would love to. It's interesting though, before we go to the stats, just a thing that hits me is a lot of times we do say time heals all wounds, but when you go into that next relationship, you're guarded and those wounds actually start to destroy that relationship because you're still in that PTSD mode from the trauma in the past, and you're not sure how to really open up and to engage there. So yeah.
And repeat betrayals, that's a classic sign of an unhealed betrayal. The face has changed, but it's the same thing. So if you're going from partner to partner, partner, friend to friend to friend, boss to
Yep.
boss to boss, and you say, what the heck, is it me? Yes, it is. Not in that it's your fault, in that it's your opportunity. There's a profound lesson waiting to be learned. Maybe the lesson is learn that you are lovable, worthy, and deserving already. Learn that you need better boundaries in place. Until and unless you do, you're going to have opportunities in the form of people to teach us.
I love it. I love it. So give me the stats.
Yeah. So now imagine over 100,000 people, men, women, just about every country's represented. As much as I'm going to share these stats, hear these numbers. 78% constantly revisit their experience.
Wow.
81, yeah, 81% feel a loss of personal power, right? So think about a loss of personal power. What would that have you do? 80% are hypervigilant. That's exhausting. 94% deal with painful triggers. These are the most common physical symptoms. 71% have low energy. 68% have all kinds of sleep issues. 63% have extreme fatigue. So you sleep all night, you wake up, you're exhausted. 47% have weight changes. So in the beginning, maybe you can't hold food down. Later on, you're emotionally eating, you're using food for comfort. 45% have a digestive issue. And that could be anything: Crohn's, IBS, diverticulitis, you name it. The most common mental symptoms: 78% are overwhelmed. I'm skipping over a bunch. 64% can't are in shock. 62% can't concentrate. So imagine you can't concentrate, you have a gut issue, you're exhausted, you still have to go to work, you still have to raise your kids, right? That's not even emotionally. Emotionally, 88% experience extreme sadness. 83% are very angry. And you're bouncing back and forth between those two all day long. 79% are stressed. This one killed me. 84% have an inability to trust. Think about what an inability to trust would do to your work, to your relationships. Just a few more. 67% prevent themselves from forming deep relationships because they're afraid of being hurt again. They put the big wall up. 82% find it hard to move forward. 90% want to move forward, but they don't know how.
It's interesting, Dr. Debi, as you call those out. I've been working with a friend for a couple of years now, and he went through deep betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
And these are like half of those things you mentioned are the things that he's going through.
Uh-huh.
And it's then following him through life. And those stats are really, really powerful and really, really accurate.
Yeah. And what's even crazier, this is what's even crazier. They're not even necessarily from a recent betrayal. This
Right.
could be from the parent who did something awful when you were a kid. This could be from the partner who broke your heart in high school. So think about this. That person may not know, care, remember. They may not even be alive. And here we are, decades later, with symptoms because it's been left unhealed. The good news is we can heal from all of it. That's the third discovery.
Very cool. So talk to me a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to the folks that are out there right now. So you threw out a lot of different things, but
Yeah.
if someone is listening,
Mm-hmm.
and this is obviously, if someone's listening and they've been deeply betrayed somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
they got those deep wounds, they're going to recognize it. But if they're having these type of issues that you were just calling out, and they handle that betrayal, are you finding that those issues all disappear?
They all do. And you will see where they do in the third discovery. Every one of them heals. Every one of them. Like, for example, I'm going to give you a
Yeah.
quick story. There was a woman in our community in her mid 80s. She had a family betrayal when she was a kid. She was adopted. They didn't tell her it was like one of those. 70 years, 70 plus years, she had a digestive issue. 2 weeks in our program, she heals from a 70 plus year digestive issue because she healed what was really at the root of it, which was the betrayal.
That is so cool. This is so paralleling what I see and the patterns that I see because once it starts, there's a constant pattern of something. And if I were to re-articulate what you were saying in that list of things, is with that betrayal, and
Mm-hmm.
usually when there's an unforgiveness, the amount of just torment in your own life,
Mm-hmm.
just the destruction of the quality and the abundance of your life, whether it's in your health or whether it's in your outlook or your relationships or your attitude, it just kind of just sucks it all down. And I love what was the percentage you mentioned about exhaustion? Because I see that a lot, just
Um,
totally exhausted.
yeah. 71% have low energy, 68% have sleep issues, 63% have extreme fatigue.
Yeah. So I just want to share for those listening, if you've gone through some sort of deep trauma and betrayal in the past, even as early as your childhood,
Mm-hmm.
and you're dealing with these issues, this could really be the secret and the key to finally getting free.
Yeah.
So, what's the next stage? The discovery number three is it's possible to get rid of it,
Oh,
possible
it's
to heal.
predictable. Oh,
Very
yeah. So
predictable.
this
Explain
was the
what,
most
yeah,
exciting. What was that?
explain more. Tell me
Yeah.
how.
So this was the most exciting. And what was discovered was while we can stay stuck for years, decades, a lifetime, and most people do,
Right.
if we're going to fully heal, and by fully heal, I mean symptoms of post betrayal syndrome, like I just shared, to this completely rebuilt place called post betrayal transformation, where you rebuild your life and yourself. You're going to move through 5 proven, predictable stages. And what's even more exciting about that is we now know what happens physically, mentally, and emotionally at every one of those stages. And we know what it takes to move from one stage to the next. Healing's entirely predictable. Happy to share the stages if you want to hear them.
I would love to hear them right now. I'm taking notes.
Okay, all right. It's what we certify all of our coaches in. It's all we do within the PBT Institute. I'm going to give you a boiled down version. So,
Perfect.
stage one is before it happens. And if you can imagine four legs of a table, the four
Okay.
legs being physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with everybody, me too, was a heavy lean on the physical and mental thinking and doing, and kind of neglecting or ignoring the emotional and the spiritual feeling and being. If a table only has two legs, it's easy for that table to topple over. That's us. Stage two, shock, trauma, D Day, Discovery Day. And this is everybody remembers their D Day. And it's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. Right here, you've ignited the stress response. You're now headed for every single stress related symptom, illness, condition, and disease. Your mind's in a total state of chaos and overwhelm. You cannot wrap your mind around what you've just learned. This makes no sense.
When you say just learned, are we talking about the at the moment you were betrayed?
Yep, the
Okay.
moment of betrayal, the moment of discovery, the moment you learned that of that deception, that lie, the moment you realized something, the moment you experienced that betrayal from that person that you were trusting.
I
It
remember a
creates
friend of ours, we were in a small group study together, and she came in that night and said, I just found out my husband has been having an affair for 10 years.
yeah,
That's the point you're talking about, that
that's the point.
moment of discovery.
It creates a psychological earthquake.
Yeah, it
Life
really
is now
does.
compartmentalized into before it happened and after it happened. Life is not the same.
Yeah,
Exactly.
very
And
powerful.
with this, we've ignited the stress response. We can't wrap our mind around anything. And there's a shattering of our worldview. It's our mental model, the rules that govern us. Trust this person. These are the rules. Don't go there. And in one earth-shattering moment or series of moments, every rule we've been holding to be real and true is no longer. The bottom has bottomed out, and a new bottom hasn't been formed yet. It's terrifying. But think about it. Go ahead. Were you going to ask something?
I love your expression. The bottom has bottomed out and the new bottom hasn't been formed yet.
Yeah.
What a scary
Terrifying.
experience. Yeah, because now everything that you held in life as the standard as how things were is totally shattered. And now you're just gripping, trying to even, I feel, almost like that plane that's spiraling out of control,
Yeah.
heading toward Earth. And you're trying to get control, but it's like it's uncontrollable.
Your entire life as you've known it is no longer.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
I get it.
So the bottom is bottoming out, what would you do? You'd grab hold of anything or anyone in order to stay safe and stay alive. That's stage three. Survival instincts emerge. This is the most practical out of all of the stages. If you can't help me, get out of my way. How do I survive this experience? Who can I trust? Where do I go? How do I feed my kids? The person you were describing earlier, that
Yep.
gentleman,
Hmm.
he's in stage three.
Yeah.
Here's why. You'll hear it so clearly. This is the most common place we get stuck. Once we've figured out how to survive our experience, because it feels so much better than the shock and trauma we just came from, we think it's good. And because we don't know there's anywhere else to go, we don't know there's a stage 4 or stage 5. Transformation doesn't even begin until stage 4. But because we don't know that, we plant roots here, we park here. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And 4 things start to happen. The first thing is we start getting all those small self benefits. We get our story. We love our story. We get to be right. We get someone to blame. We get sympathy from everyone we tell our story to, right?
Right.
And on some level, we're so unhappy. This feels good. So we take it. So we plant deeper roots. We're not supposed to, but we don't know that. And now because we're here longer than we should be, now the mind starts doing things like, maybe you deserved it. Maybe you're not that great. Maybe this, maybe that. So we plant deeper roots.
That's
And now,
exactly what my friend, maybe I deserve, this is my, going back through
exactly.
that.
That's
Exactly.
why I said
Yeah.
you're gonna hear
I hear it
all
all
your
the time.
people, you're gonna hear in this stage. Now, because you're here longer than you should be, like energy, and these are the thoughts we're thinking, like energy attracts like energy. This is the energy we're putting out. So now we're attracting circumstances and experiences and even new relationships to confirm this is where we belong. Like here's where, excuse me, we will join some kind of support group and sabotage our healing because we found our people and they're keeping us stuck. Here's where we'll go to, let's say, a therapist, well meaning therapist, but if they're not highly skilled in betrayal, we're going to feel heard and validated and understood, and that's it. And
Right.
we're re traumatizing ourselves, revalidating ourselves, gluing ourselves to stage 3. Here's where we're healing and we sabotage our healing because we're afraid of outgrowing our betrayer who has no intention of changing. You see? And because we're so miserable, but we need to get through our day, right here, we start numbing, avoiding, distracting. So, right here, we start using, if we weren't stuck enough, this is the glue that keeps us here. We start using food, drugs, alcohol, work, TV, scrolling, whatever, drugs, any sort of numbing anything. Addiction. This is where addiction happens. And we do it for a day, a week, a month. Now it's a habit, a year, 10 years, 20 years. And I can see someone 20 years later and say that whatever addiction, do you think that has anything to do with your betrayal? And they'd look at me like I'm crazy. They'd say it happened 20 years ago. All they did was put themselves in stage 3 and stay there. That makes
Yeah.
sense?
It makes a lot of sense because there are three things that are the top three things for addiction. And one of them is rejection and abandonment, which is all about
Mm-hmm.
this betrayal.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're deeply rooted in stage 3, and the addiction is keeping them there. Actually, there were
Wow.
3 groups in the study who did not heal. One, they had their story, they were sticking with it. And I'll get
Yeah.
you through stage 4 and 5.
Right.
They had their story, they were sticking with it. The second, they ran to the doctor who put them on a mood stabilizer, anti anxiety medication. They were numbing in some way. They were addicted, right? It may have made the day a bit easier to get through, now without a price. They did not heal. The third group, this was the group where the betrayer had very little consequences. So whether it was out of, financial fear, religious reasons, whatever, there really wasn't a consequence. They just tried to turn the other cheek, look the other way. I saw 2 things with this group. Number 1, a further deterioration of the relationship. And 2, this group by far was the most physically sick.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, um,
Now, when the couple decides to crash and burn, they can build something beautiful that they never would have had before then. And we see that all the time. We have a program for the betrayers as well. I mean, clearly it wouldn't be just anybody who wants to do a program like this, but the ones who realize I just shattered, the heart and trust of the very people, the very person I love the most, that loves me the most. Like, what was I doing? There's tremendous potential. And just to close the loop on my story, rebuilding is always a choice, whether you rebuild yourself and move along. That's what I did with my family. They were deeply rooted in stage 3. There was no other way they saw it. So I moved along. And, if the opportunity lends itself, if you're willing, if you want to, you rebuild something from the ground up new with the person who hurt you. And that's what I did with my husband. So not long ago, is to completely transform people. We married each other again.
I love
New,
it.
new rings, new vows, new dress, and our 4 kids as our bridal party. Betrayal will show you who someone truly is. It can also wake them up to who they temporarily became. Not that you need to do anything with it, but there's tremendous potential if you want to.
Let me ask you, like with you and your husband, was
Mhm.
there any sense on his end? Um, Obviously, I know the betrayal was him against
Mhm.
you, but as he changed, was there anything on his end that, um, how can I ask, that he felt betrayed by you in any way?
No,
Okay.
it had, and this is what I want everybody who's betrayed to know. It has nothing to do
Right.
with you. This is someone else's unhealed trauma, sense of entitlement, lack, scarcity, whatever. You're unfortunately the recipient of it, and they may have learned their life's greatest lesson at your expense, but it has nothing to do with you. Because think about it, there are plenty of people who are betrayed. They have their own traumas as well. They don't choose to betray. It's a
Right.
decision, it's not a mistake.
Definitely a decision. Do you find that those who betray have, do they have a betrayal back in their life too? In other words, is something hit them and now they're betraying along the way? Is that? the
Sometimes,
pattern?
not always, not
Okay.
always. There are so many reasons why someone betrays. And again, I just want to make sure it's clear. It is never an excuse. Here's what I
Right,
do see,
exactly.
though. Unfortunately, a lot of times the betrayed will struggle and suffer in silence because of the betrayer's previous background. They use it as an excuse. Well, I had this happen to me, and so and so. And so they're using the betrayal almost as a reaction to their own trauma or whatever. That's not to say that person doesn't need all the support they can get, but it's never an excuse to betray. Never.
Absolutely never an excuse. You're right on that. I remember uh, I could just tell, so, as you're going through this, so many stories from the women I work with
Mhm.
at this addiction recovery center, and just how it shaped them. I mean, they're
Oh, yeah.
finally getting free after decades of that original betrayal.
Well, and that's why I want the 5 stages can shorten anybody's learning curve by decades. Can I
So
get you
the
through stages 4 and 5?
yeah, let's do. Let's repeat real quickly. So the first stage is the four legs of the table.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you got spiritual. Help me with those four legs.
Physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual, but we're only prioritizing really the physical and the mental. It's just a real dangerous setup. That's not saying that that's the reason why we're betrayed,
Right.
but it's a shaky setup.
It's a shaky setup. And
Mm-hmm.
then stage two is the shock of the moment when you actually realize that you've been betrayed. Stage
Mm-hmm.
three, you're now in the survival instinct. You're
Mm-hmm.
going to grab anything you can hold on to. All right. And a lot of times we stay there because it becomes our story and we don't know how to just let the story go. It becomes I use the word, it almost becomes our identity. We just
It
keep
does.
talking about, it, okay?
Yeah.
So
And,
then what's
and
the, keep
yeah,
going.
that's the thing. The longer we're here, the harder it is to leave because this is what we know. It's grown so familiar. We can't imagine life without that story.
Wow.
So it
This
keeps us
so
there.
parallels this is really cool.
Yeah.
All right.
So if you and for sure with the addiction piece, because
Yeah.
that is all stage 2, stage 3 right there. Right
Yep.
there. If you're willingness is a big word right here. If you're willing to let go of the story, grieve, mourn the loss, a bunch of things you need to do, you move to stage 4.
Okay.
Stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. So here's where you acknowledge I can't undo what happened, but I control what I do with it. In that decision, you're turning down the stress response. You're not healing just yet, but at least you stopped the damage that was going on in stages 2 and stage 3. Stage 4 feels like if you've ever moved. If you've ever moved to a new house, office, condo, whatever, your stuff's not there. It's not quite cozy yet, but it's this sort of hopeful excitement, right?
Right.
But think about it. If you were to move, you don't take everything with you. You don't take the things that don't represent the version of you you're now ready to become. And what I found was there's a spot as people go from stage 2 to stage 3 to stage 4. If your friends weren't there for you, you don't take them with you. That like lame support group that's keeping you stuck, you're done. That therapist who doesn't understand betrayal and you're just feeling heard, validated, understood, you're done. That betrayer who's not changing, you're done. And people ask me all the time, they're like, what the heck is it me? Yes, it is. You're undergoing a transformation. And if they don't rise, they don't come along. So stage 4 is a very, it's not necessarily a lonely stage, but it's a very personal stage. You're making lots of changes, lots of decisions, it's very new.
Sounds like stage three is you're wallowing in your pity
Mhm.
and you've almost given up and you're just clinging to anything. But stage four, you say, I'm just going to change. I'm going to move on. It's a deliberate, conscious decision to now move past it. Is that kind of how the
Exactly. It's
trigger point?
intentional and deliberate.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay.
Yeah. There's here's where in stage 4, you're taking all the parts you love about yourself and you're leaving behind everything that no longer serves. You're really deliberately and intentionally recreating yourself.
So help me understand the practical illustrate for me. So let's say I'm in a deep relationship. I've been deeply betrayed by that
Uh-huh.
relationship. Let's say it's a spouse or a
Yeah.
partner of some sort. And let's say I've got kids with that person.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's all intertwined. I'm going to continue to see them. And what's the what's the process look like different from stage three to once you get to stage four? How are you separating that and saying, I'm going to take only the parts with me and leave
Mhm.
everything else behind when it's still kind of intertwined in your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah, it's a great question. I have a saying that I've been using for the 33 years I've been in business, and it holds true just about every topic. And it's this: hard now, easy later.
Okay.
Easy now, hard later. Take your pick. It's going to be one of those two.
It's the credit
When it
card approach.
when it comes to healing from betrayal, it is hard now, easy later. And by that I mean, to answer your question, let's say the old you, like a situation comes along, and the old you would have been like, ugh, forget it, I don't want to argue about it. No, you don't do that anymore. Now this version of you that you're building and you're creating filters it and says, is this in my best interest to let this go, or do I need to speak up? Do I need to have a boundary in place right here? As hard as it is, you speak that truth, you speak that boundary. So it's a million things like that,
Okay.
where the old you would have gone along with something. This version of you you're building is is really, it's about you now, where you're saying, no, 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 I don't, that's not okay. That doesn't work for me. I'm not willing to just go along with everything. And does it shake up the people around you? Oh, yes, it does. But we write the script, how we're treated. So if we're not rewriting that script, nothing's really changing. So how can we expect this scenario to change? Because if there are no consequences to the betrayer, if the betrayed doesn't use this as an opportunity to become so strong, so empowered, so just so intentional, you're just setting it up for more of the same.
A lot of folks on my channel are business owners selling in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
And this is almost like business 101. You have the pillars of running your business and something shocks. There's a shift in the market. And either you wallow in it and you go, oh my gosh, the ceiling is falling in, or you say, I'm going to make a change. And you make a deliberate change of just saying, this is now the new normal.
Mm-hmm.
So let's make it work.
Yeah.
Um, and it's the same thing I'm hearing, the same process that I'm hearing through this. It's just that, okay, time to move on, and it is what it is, and let's pick up from here.
Like, for example, when after the betrayal from my husband, that was it. That old me was dead,
Yeah.
dead and gone. That old relationship, dead and gone. I wasn't willing to go through that again or become that version of me again. But when I'm saying it, it's not about rebuilding. It's not even just about how you are in relationship. It's how you are on your own. Like, here's a silly example, but it'll explain it. I was so hard on myself with everything I would do. And if I would make a mistake, the things I would say to myself, I wouldn't have a friend in the world if I spoke like that. Like, for example, I get lost wherever I go. I just do. So I know I need to leave extra time. But I would be so harsh and critical of myself when I would get lost. And then I decided after my betrayal, well, everything's changing. That's going to change too. I'm not doing that anymore. Now I'll probably do the same things, but instead of it being wrong, bad, all these names, it's simply adorable.
I totally get it. Yeah.
And I still do the same things, and it's just adorable. And I get a kick out of it. So that's what I'm saying. You're really recreating all of it. But if you're still like, I was always a kind person, I would never intentionally hurt someone. I didn't want to change that. Like, you bring everything you love, but you leave behind the parts that you've outgrown.
It's almost renewing your mind in who you are
Mm-hmm.
and creating in your mind's eye both the acceptance of the things you can't do, you can't change, and embracing the things that say, I can't change these things.
Exactly.
Very
Exactly. And
cool.
this is why when someone's in stages 4, and particularly in stage 5, and I'll
Yep.
get to stage
Okay.
5, you're so strong and confident and empowered because you've earned it. You have earned all of it because you've created all of it, and you've created it one thought, one behavior, one decision at a time.
I love it. So what's stage 5?
So stage 5 is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. The body
Okay.
starts to heal. Self-love, self-care, eating well, exercise. We didn't have the bandwidth for that earlier. Now we do. The mind is healing. We're making all kinds of new rules, new boundaries based on the road we just traveled. And we have a new worldview based on everything we see so clearly now. And the four legs of that table, in the beginning, it was all about physical and mental. By this point, we're solidly grounded because we're focused on the emotional and the spiritual too. Those are the 5 stages.
This is interesting because it patterns any business as well.
Mm-hmm.
Because these are really your stages of, you know, what's going on, something hits, and now
Mm-hmm.
you're shaken to your core, and you saying want to change, you learn, and now once you rebirth and create
Mm-hmm.
this new world view of everything, you're just a lot stronger coming out of it,
Well,
and you can handle these things a lot better. How
exactly.
does this help so talk to betrayal and healing. So I understand the stages, okay?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What's the process in stage 5? How do you start to heal and rebirth it?
Yeah.
What,
It is so common that in stage 5, we'll see new relationships, we'll see new levels of health, we'll see new passion projects, we'll see, I mean, you name it, like the PBT Institute, that was a stage 5 thing.
okay.
Marrying my husband again, that was a stage 5 thing. When you're stuck in your trauma, you can only exist within your symptoms of post betrayal syndrome and more of the same experiences, that mindset that keeps attracting the negativity to you. You can't see any of that. But as you're in stage 5, you're so ready for different things. If I tell you how many businesses I see birthed in stage 5, because for a few reasons. One is that idea comes to mind, and where the old you may have been like, oh, that's too big, that's too crazy. This new version of you is kind of like, if I could do that, if I could move through that betrayal, you kidding me? I could take that on.
Yeah. Give me some whatever context you're
Yeah.
free to give.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a lot of people have gone through divorce, and they really loved they loved who their spouse was, but they were
Mm-hmm.
so betrayed they could not stand it, and they
Yeah.
separated.
Mm-hmm.
But they would love nothing more than for reconciling
Mm-hmm.
with a changed spouse so that those betrayals never happen again.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take for you and your husband? And obviously he's the one that betrayed you.
Yeah.
So he had to change before, I mean, you changed, but you didn't just go back to the old husband, something new. What was the process? Did you initiate that? How does that work?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. To uh get back together with someone who was the old version of them,
Right.
that is a recipe for illness and disease and
Amen.
disaster right
Yeah.
there. So but we see it all the time where if there is, like I said, that crash and burn on both sides, where there is the biggest wake up, for the betrayed, of course, but for the betrayer as well, there's tremendous potential. But for that betrayer who's just sort of on to the next, blaming, not taking responsibility for their behaviors or actions, you have nothing to work with there.
Right. So I guess my question is, and I
Mhm.
totally get what you're saying. I
Yeah.
agree with it. But your husband changed from
Yeah.
who he was to who he is. Did you
Mhm.
help initiate that? Did you share any of this, or did it happen on his own and he
Yeah.
went through his own process?
Yes, I think the reason why he changed to the level that he did was he was the one who told our kids. And if anything is going to have you wake up and realize what matters, it's losing all the people that matter
Gotcha.
to you. Because when you have your four, teenage kids at the time look at you and they're like, "You did what to mom?" That
Yeah.
was a gigantic wake up call. He lost all of us.
So as you came through these stages,
Mhm.
are you saying that he basically came through the same stages on his own,
No,
or
it's a different experience.
okay, so
So,
and here's where my question, what I'm
yeah.
ultimately trying to get to, for those listening, like I've got a sweet friend that they've just closed through the divorce,
Hmm.
right? But
Hmm.
she would really love him to change,
Yeah.
um, and would really love to be back because she still loves the person she originally married.
Yeah.
Something changed in that process. So how does that spouse help enable their ex to change? I guess
Yeah.
that's really the question I'm trying to get to.
Yeah, sure. So I think, like I said, there was the shock on his end of losing everybody,
Okay.
and then from there, we of course still had to stay in touch because of the kids. But I remember he was one who said, what can I read? What can I do?" And it was interesting because I said, spirituality was the most important thing to me, and it was always something that he would make fun of or make light of or whatever, and it was the most important thing. And I was like, listen, you do you, but I have no intention of having any other conversation beyond the kids. If that's not of interest to you, it's totally fine, but that's who I am. And he was like, tell me what to read. Tell me. And so he did, and he took to it. And now all of a sudden, the next thing after that, and he's an extreme person, the next thing after that, within days, he got rid of his fancy clothes and his fancy car. And we were living, where I'm bi-coastal between New York and California. We were in New York. So he would go into the city, New York City, on the weekend and sit with the homeless. And then he got trained in hospice care. I mean,
Oh,
he took this
wow.
to a whole other level. Um, there's the pendulum swinging hard
Yeah.
the other way, and he just it wasn't even slowly, he became, it was like he really woke up, and then he just started talking to he has a bunch of guys in his office, and he would tell them, don't mess up your life, and don't do what I did, and don't do this, and don't do that. And then we started having more in common. And one of the biggest things that the betrayed needs to see is how different the betrayer has become. If there's any part of them that's recognizable from who they are, who they were, it's very triggering. So they need to be very careful. And it was a process, but keep in mind, I was healing to the extent I was because here I was doing the study on it and
Yep.
implementing everything the study said worked. So I was doing my work on his own. He was doing his. So we were two very different people going through this.
Wow. What great hope, though, to be able to get free. And even if your husband didn't change,
Mm-hmm.
just the freedom in your life. How would you describe having gone through this, where you were in stage three, the
Yeah.
survival mode?
Mm-hmm.
And not that I don't want to minimize the remarriage,
Yeah.
but if someone's got a betrayal that just never
Mm-hmm.
reconciles,
Yeah.
what's the life difference for you from going from stage three, just survival, to where you are now? How would you describe that in terms of
I
impact?
can describe it from, we have so many members within the PBT Institute. We actually have coaches who specialize in separation and divorce, and some who specialize in forgiveness and reconciliation. So
Interesting.
some couples have rebuilt, some have healed and moved along. And stage five is for the person. This is all about you when you're
Okay.
healing. So regardless of if you're rebuilding with that person again, or just building yourself, you're becoming so much more confident and healthy and empowered and strong because of it. That's trauma well served, because here you are, you're looking at it and using this trauma as the launch pad for your transformation. You're taking this trauma and saying, I don't want to waste this experience. I've been cracked wide open, and now I want to become this version of me that never would have existed, been able to be created had this not happened.
As we start to wrap up, for 100 people, what percent of those who've gone through these trauma, they come through
Mm-hmm.
this process, especially with the PBT Institute there?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any stat? What percent actually are able to make it through stage five and start to heal and move on?
Yeah, I would say the biggest factor is willingness more
Okay.
than time. So if they're willing, it's just a roadmap and they just have to follow it. If they're not willing, because here's the thing, not even willing to rebuild, not it's willingness to let go of their story and all it gave them, willingness to let go of the old version of them, willingness to let go of all the rules that they created in their mind, willingness to let go of the beliefs. Like so willingness is the biggest factor.
How interesting. A simple parallel. Um, my dad was a surgeon, and he found that those who wanted to heal and get back to work It's like hyper healing. Something in the
Yeah.
body, when the brain says,
Hmm.
I'm going to get back to work, they healed. Those people who weren't really willing to heal, they didn't want to go back to being alone in their home or something, they just stayed
Exactly.
sick. I love
Hmm.
it. The willingness is so
Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
So, how do people find out more? So, if I've got someone they love this, they need help.
Hmm.
Where can they go?
Yeah.
What do you offer?
Thank you. Everything is at the PBT, as in post betrayal transformation, the PBT Institute.com. And it's super simple. I mean, it's just if the research proved it works, it's in our Reclaim. That's our most popular program. And they meet with our coaches. They meet on a group call with me. They have our signature program, which literally moves you through the stages. Everything is labeled according to a number. So according
Okay,
to what stage you're in, you
right.
self-assess in a minute. And then you do, like, let's say all the stage 2 things until you're in stage 3. You do all the stage 3 things until you're in stage 4. And then stage 4 until you're in stage 5.
And just in terms of how this feels or how this looks, are they staying at their home? They're just having Zoom call meetings,
Yeah.
or how does that
Comfort
feel?
of your own home. We
Okay,
have people from all over the world, and it's the our coaches teach live daily classes, but everything is recorded if you can't catch it live. And the coaches, some stay with one coach, some bounce around, some they're all. I mean, I certify a good amount, and the best of the best get to work within the PBT Institute.
that is really good. It is so refreshing to hear a solution to this because so many people are just, the people I deal with, lots of friends, they're
Mhm.
just dealing with these traumas and these betrayals from years back.
Yeah.
Number one, a lot of times they don't even realize that the challenges they're going through now, their health and relationship
Oh,
challenge and
yeah.
their career challenges, are all tied back to that thing way back there
That's it.
that they're
Stage 3
still not
life.
letting go of. And if they would just understand and let go and have a simple process, it would change their life completely.
Yeah. And it's
This
not
is
their
so
fault. They're
exciting.
living in
Yeah.
stage 3. And when you're in stage 3, you have stage 3 thoughts, you're making stage 3 decisions.
Yeah.
That's it.
You just need to be able to, as one study said, it's a peep over the pale. Recognize that there's more that you can accomplish.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you for giving us a peep over the pale, Dr. Debbie. This has
Thank
been
you.
really exciting. And for our listeners, please go to thepbtinstitute.com to learn more. I'll put in the show notes. And if you're struggling, you have betrayal, this I can guarantee you will help you get through because I've seen the same pattern work in the work I do, and this is really structured and formatted. So thank you so much, Dr. Debbie.
Thank you so much.
You have a very blessed day.